Hello everyone, good evening to all of you. Good evening once again, good evening Bhavya, good evening Kavya, good evening Kanishka, good evening Viral, good evening Usha, Lalitha, good evening Narendra. After so many days you are back Narendra, where were you? Good evening Likita. Okay. Good evening, Jai Hind Narendra, very good evening to everyone. Good evening all of you. Okay. Good evening, Kanishka. Good evening to all of you. So, everyone, let us get started with the today's session. Okay, we have our GK class today, and यहाँ पे हम study करेंगे rather than like doing the question practice class we'll have tomorrow. Okay, in today's class we will do the questions. Not the questions. We will study. We'll take the notes. Okay. Good evening, Likita. So let us get started, everyone. As you can see, what is the name of the chapter? Okay, the name of the chapter that we have. Very first of all, this is our GK class. And as you can see, what is the name of the chapter? The name of the chapter that we are going. Okay, everyone. Now I'm audible. Now I'm audible. That microphone, the previous one got discharged. Yes. Okay. Okay, everyone. So let us get started with the class. Okay, so we will learn here about microbial diseases. Okay, we are going to learn about microbial diseases. हम किसके बारे में डिस्कस करने वाले हैं? We will discuss about microbial diseases. Okay, now before starting the chapter microbial diseases, okay, there are a few things we should know. Okay, what is the name of the chapter? The name of the chapter is microbial diseases. What is the word we have used? यहाँ पे हमने क्या word use किया है? We have used a word microbial. What is the word that we have used? We have used a word microbial. So what is the meaning of the word microbial? जब हमको पता होगा that microbial word का मतलब क्या होता है, only and only then we will be able to discuss the meaning of microbial disease. Okay? नहीं बेटा, MCQ we will have in tomorrow's class. Okay, Narendra? So the word microbial word is originated from what? Microbial word is originated from another word that is microorganisms. The word microbial किससे originate हुआ है? It is originated from another of the word that is microorganisms. Okay, now what are microorganisms? We study what are microorganisms. Microorganisms are very tiny, minute organisms that are not visible through our naked eyes. What are microorganisms? Microorganisms are tiny, minute organisms that are not visible through our eyes. That are not visible through our eyes. ऐसे small organisms, ऐसे tiny organisms which are not visible through our normal eyes, okay, which are not visible through our normal eyes, what do we call them? We call them microorganisms, okay, we call them microorganisms. Microorganisms mein we have used the word micro. What is the meaning of micro? Micro means something that is very small, something that is extremely small. What do we call it? We call or we use the term micro for it, okay. And we have another word, micro का ही हमारे पास antonym होता है. What is another word opposite to micro? Another word opposite to micro is macro. So macro means something that is very large. कोई भी ऐसी चीज जो large है, that is macro, and micro means very small. So what are microorganisms? Microorganisms are such small organisms which we cannot see through our eyes. हम उनको देख ही नहीं सकते. If you will think of a smallest organism, you will think of ant. आप किसके बारे में सोचोगे? You will be thinking about ant. But ant is also visible from our eyes. So ant is not a microorganism. Microorganisms उससे भी छोटे होते हैं. हम उनको देख ही नहीं सकते. अगर हम जैसे try करेंगे to look at them, to observe them through our eyes without using any scientific device, so we will not be able to see them. Okay. Now, how to see the microorganisms then? अगर हम उनको अपनी regular eyes से नहीं देख सकते, so how can we observe a microorganisms? So for this everyone, we have a scientific device. What do we have? We have a scientific device. What is the name of this scientific device? This scientific device is called microscope. What do we call this scientific device? This scientific device is referred to as microscope. Okay, now what is microscope? Microscope is a device used to observe. Microscope is a device used to observe microorganisms. If we want to observe microorganisms, अगर हमको microorganisms को देखना है, if we want to see them, if we want to study them, so how we will do it? We will do it with the help of microscope, with the help of microscope. So in your school, in the science lab, in the biology laboratory, very easily you can see a microscope. Okay, so microscope के through हम क्या करते हैं? We observe microorganisms. Okay, what do we do through microscope? We observe microorganisms. Now, the very important thing is, what are the examples of microorganisms? Microorganism के examples क्या होंगे? What are the common examples of microorganism? So we will keep in mind, हमको 4 microorganisms के बारे में study करना. Okay, we have to study about 4 kinds of microorganisms. What are the 4 type of microorganisms? The first kind of microorganism we have is bacteria. What is the first kind of microorganism we have? We have got bacteria. The second one we have is viruses. Bacteria, in addition to bacteria, we have viruses. The third kind of microorganisms that we have are protozoa. Okay, the third kind of microorganisms that we have are protozoa, and the fourth one we have is fungi. Okay, what are the fourth kind of microorganisms? Fungi. So 4 microorganisms के हम यहाँ पे names याद रखेंगे. What are the 4 kinds of microorganisms? Bacteria, viruses, protozoa and fungi. Now, कोई भी disease जो इनमें से किसी microorganism के through cause हो रही है, any of the disease that is caused by one of these microorganisms, उसको हम क्या कहते हैं? We call any such disease as microbial disease. Okay, we call any such disease as microbial disease. So first thing we will keep in mind, then microbial word, it is originated from the word microorganisms. Microorganism का मतलब होता है any small organism which is not visible through our normal eyes. And to observe microorganisms हमको क्या required होगा? We will need a specific scientific device that is called microscope. And there are 4 kinds of microorganisms: bacteria, fungi, protozoa and viruses. Okay. Now everyone, further if we want, तो हम क्या कर सकते हैं? We can classify the microorganism into 2 types. Okay, if we want, so what we can do? We can classify the microorganisms into 2 types. हम microorganisms को 2 types में classify कर सकते हैं. What are the 2 types of microorganisms? Let us have a look at them. So the first kind of microorganisms that we have are good microorganisms. Okay, the first type of microorganism जो हमारे पास है, they are good microorganisms. So Okay, so first we'll learn about good microorganisms. Correctly answered, Bhavya. There are two types of microorganisms, the good microorganisms and the bad microorganisms. So what are good microorganisms? First we'll learn about good microorganisms. So हमको पता होना चाहिए that all microorganisms are not bad. Some of the microorganisms are really important for us. वो हमारे लिए बहुत ही important होते हैं. We cannot survive without the presence of microorganisms. Okay, so when do we say something is good? हम कब कहते हैं कि कोई चीज बहुत अच्छी है? When do we say that something is good? We say something is good whenever something is helpful to us. कोई भी चीज जब हमारे लिए helpful होती है, that's when we say that something is good. Okay, that's when we say something is good. Correctly answered, Likhita. Lactobacillus. Correctly, Viral answered like lactobacillus. So good microorganisms. What can be good microorganisms? Microorganisms which are helpful for us. What are good microorganisms? Microorganisms which are helpful for us. ऐसे microorganisms को हम क्या कहेंगे? We will call all such microorganisms as good microorganism. Any microorganism which is helpful for us, हम उनको कहते हैं good microorganisms. So in the nature there are many microorganisms. Okay, they are doing various work and they are very helpful to us. So we will learn a few examples. Okay, we will learn the name of a few good microorganisms. So first microorganism, a good microorganism, everyone, we have is lactobacillus. Okay, first good microorganism जिसके बारे में हम स्टडी करने वाले हैं, it is lactobacillus. So for lactobacillus we will keep in mind, for lactobacillus already a question is asked in Sainik School entrance exam. Okay, they have already asked us a question in Sainik School entrance exam. Now what is lactobacillus? तो सबसे पहले हमको पता होना चाहिए, what did we learn? We learned just now that there are 4 types of microorganisms. There is bacteria, there is viruses, there is protozoa and there is fungi. So out of these 4, what is lactobacillus? Does anyone know? Yes, you gave the correct answer, Likita. It converts milk into curd. But what is lactobacillus? Lactobacillus क्या है? Is it a bacteria? Is it a fungi? Is it a virus? What is lactobacillus? Lactobacillus क्या है? Anyone knows this? What is lactobacillus? It is a bacteria. Very good. No, my kids, my love, it is not fungi. Okay, it is bacteria. Okay, correctly answered. Lactobacillus is what? Lactobacillus is a bacteria. Okay, तो हमको ध्यान रखना है, what is lactobacillus? Lactobacillus is a bacteria, and what does lactobacillus do? Lactobacillus converts milk into curd. ये क्या करता है? It converts milk into curd. So whenever we have to prepare curd, जब भी आपने देखा होगा हम घर में दही बनाते हैं, or we are preparing curd at home, what do we do? Okay, what we are doing here? हम थोड़ा सा milk boil करते हैं. In the warm milk we add a spoonful of curd. हम उसमें curd add करते हैं. We keep it overnight and the next morning we observe कि जो complete milk होता है, the entire milk, it gets converted into curd. पूरा milk किस में convert हो जाता है? It gets converted into curd. So how does that happen? वो पूरा milk curd में कैसे convert हुआ? Because curd already contains a bacteria. The name of that bacteria is lactobacillus. What is the name of the bacteria? Lactobacillus bacteria. Correctly answered, Narendra. And what it does? It converts milk into curd. वो milk को किस में convert करेगा? It will convert milk into curd. Have a look here. We have used a word lacto. Anywhere in the English language, if you are finding the word lacto, तो आपको बिल्कुल ध्यान रखना है, it is associated with milk. English में कहीं पे भी you are getting lacto word, कहीं पे भी आपको lacto word आएगा, इसका मतलब उस word का कुछ ना कुछ relation तो milk से जरूर है. It is associated with milk. Okay. For example, we say lactometer. आपने स्टडी किया, we have studied it in scientific devices. Lactometer. तो lactometer क्या करता है? Lactometer measures purity of milk. What does lactometer do? It measures the purity of milk. The same way we study about lactose. Okay, components of food हम क्या study करते हैं? We study about lactose. तो lactose क्या है? Lactose is the sugar present in milk. What is lactose? Lactose is sugar present in milk. So we will keep this one thing in mind, that anywhere we are obtaining the word lacto, that means it has got something to do with milk. Correct. Lactometer we use in order to measure the purity of milk. So first example of a good microorganism was lactobacillus. The second example, everyone, we have is yeast. The second example we have of good microorganism is yeast. So very first of all, जैसे हमने देखा lactobacillus क्या था? Lactobacillus is a bacteria. The same way, when we look into yeast, what is yeast? Yeast is a fungi. What is yeast? Yeast is a fungi. आप fungi भी बोल सकते हो, आप fungi भी बोल सकते हो. Both the pronunciations are correct. Okay, yeast is a fungus, correct, or fungi we say. Yeast, very good. Okay, so what is the function of yeast? Yeast क्या करता है? Now everyone, whenever we are preparing like bread, whenever we are preparing bread, whenever we are preparing cake, whenever we are preparing idli, dosa, तो आपने देखा है we just ferment the batter. हम क्या करते हैं? Batter को हम उसके ferment करते हैं. So whenever we are preparing cake, whenever we are preparing breads, in that what is added? In that yeast is added. उसमें क्या add किया जाता है? And that yeast is added, and because of the addition of yeast, what happens? Our bread becomes very fluffy, our cakes become very fluffy and very soft. Okay, so we will keep in mind what is the use of yeast. So we will keep in mind yeast is used in baking. Okay, where is yeast used? Yeast is mainly used for baking purposes. Baking industries mein yeast is a very important microorganism. Without the use of yeast, good quality breads, good quality cakes, good quality like dosa, batter, all of the things yeast sabhi mein use kiya jata hai. Many of you might also be having yeast powder. Market mein ye milta hai in the packets, yeast powder at home. Okay, so ghar pe bhi if we are doing any kind of preparation, what we are doing, we are adding some small amount of yeast in that, and what it does, it helps in the baking process. So हमारे जो cake, bread, they become very fluffy. That is due to the presence of yeast. Okay, the third important microorganism that we have to learn about here is penicillium. Okay, the third important microorganism we will learn about is penicillium. What is penicillium? Penicillium is a fungi. What is penicillium? Penicillium is a fungi. Now, why we are learning about penicillium? Penicillium के बहुत सारे uses नहीं है. Penicillium is just having one use. Okay, so penicillium, it helps in the preparation of antibiotic. What does penicillium do? Penicillium helps in the preparation of antibiotic. ये antibiotics के preparation में हमको help करता है. Okay, now which antibiotic? कौन सी antibiotic बनाने में ये help करता है? So we will keep in mind the name of the antibiotic is penicillin. Okay, it helps us in the preparation of penicillin. So antibiotics are what? In this very chapter we will learn about it, that antibiotics are some medicines. Okay, and what do? They help us to treat the bacterial diseases. Okay, bacteria के through जो diseases होते हैं उनमें we can have antibiotics. So many times doctor recommends antibiotics. Doctor gives the medication of antibiotics if a person is suffering from any kind of bacterial disease. जिसके बारे में अभी हम आगे और पढ़ेंगे. So penicillin से we have to keep in mind that which was the first antibiotic to be discovered? Which was the first antibiotic that was discovered? The very first antibiotic that was discovered was penicillin. The very first antibiotic जो हमने discuss की थी, जो हमने discover की थी, okay, it was penicillin, and penicillin is prepared from the fungus. The name of the fungus or fungi is penicillium. Okay, and who discovered it? ये question पूछा जाता है. 1 year they have asked this question in RMS. Who discovered the first antibiotic? Who was the person who discovered or who prepared? Discovered is the wrong term here क्योंकि उन्होंने prepare किया था, उन्होंने उसकी खोज invent किया था. Who discovered first antibiotic? So we will keep in mind it was Alexander Fleming. Who was the person who prepared the first antibiotic? The first antibiotic was prepared by Alexander Fleming. तो ये जो हमारा question है, this is already asked in the RMS exam. Okay, so we will keep this mind. Yes, Viral correctly answered. Alexander Fleming. Alexander Fleming is credited with the invention of first antibiotic. सबसे पहली antibiotic जो थी इन्होंने prepare की थी, and he prepared it with the help of a fungi. The name of the fungi was penicillium, and the name of the first antibiotic was penicillin. So these three are the major examples that we will keep in mind when we are discussing about good microorganisms. There are many other good microorganisms. They are present in soil, they are present inside of our body also. बट हमको थोड़ा सा रिस्ट्रिक्ट होके पढ़ना है. ओके, सारी चीजें नहीं पढ़नी है. वी ओनली हैव टू स्टडी दोज थिंग्स विच आर एट द लेवल ऑफ क्लास 5th एंट्रेंस एग्जाम. ओके, करेक्ट जयश्री. Alexander Fleming is the right answer. Good. Okay, so this was all about good microorganisms. Next after this we have the second kind of microorganisms, that are bad microorganisms. The second kind of microorganisms that we have is bad microorganisms. Now what is the meaning of bad microorganisms? When do we say something is bad? हम क्या कब कहते हैं that कोई भी चीज क्यों bad होती है? Whenever something is bad, it is bad because it is harmful to us. कोई भी चीज अगर हमारे लिए harmful होगी तभी हम कहेंगे it is bad. Like sometimes our parents say is bad. Why we are saying junk food is bad? Because it is not good for our health, because it is very harmful. वो हमारी health के लिए अच्छा नहीं है. Okay, so anything that is harmful to us, okay, that is bad. तो हमको ये याद रखना है. If something is helpful, it's good. If something is not helpful, if it is harmful, we will say they are bad. So what are bad microorganisms? Bad microorganisms are such microorganisms, okay, that are harmful to us. Microorganisms that are harmful to us. What do we call such microorganisms? All such microorganisms, they are referred to as bad microorganisms. Now very quickly we will learn a few examples about bad microorganisms. हम bad microorganisms के कुछ examples देखेंगे. So first use, or the first very common example we can see from the bad microorganism is the spoilage of food. In the chapter of cooking and preservation हम study करते हैं. There are various methods we try to preserve our food. We do salting, हम food को refrigerator में रखते हैं. We boil the food, we add sugar. There is a lot of things that we do, okay, to preserve the food. Why we are doing that? Because there are some bad microorganisms. What can they do? They can spoil the food. Okay, so bad microorganisms का first example होगा that food spoilage. They are involved in the spoilage of food. And how can we preserve the food from it all and everything? That is a different chapter. And the second important thing is they cause diseases. Okay, they cause various diseases. So mainly the part that we have to focus on in the bad microorganism is the disease part. Okay, mainly हमको क्या किस पे focus करना है? Mainly we have to focus on the disease part. Okay, mainly we have to focus on the disease part. So from here everyone, we are going to start off with our main topic, that was microbial disease. So in today's class we will just have a brief introduction of microbial disease, and फिर कल के class में we will continue with it. Okay, so microbial disease. Okay, so what are microbial disease? In very simple terms, the disease that is caused by microorganism, उसको हम क्या कहेंगे? We will call it microbial disease. Any disease that is caused by microorganisms. What are microbial disease? Diseases that are caused by microorganism. कोई भी ऐसी disease जो किससे cause हो रही है? Any disease that is caused by microorganism, okay, are called microbial disease. What do we call all such diseases? They are called as microbial disease. Any disease that is caused by microorganism, we are going to call them microbial disease. इनको हम क्या कहेंगे? We will be calling them microbial disease. Now the most important thing about microbial disease is that microbial diseases are infectious. Most of them, not all, but many of the microbial disease, okay, many of the microbial disease are infectious. What is the meaning of infectious? Infectious means the microbial disease can spread from one person to another person. ये disease किसी one person से किस में spread हो सकते हैं? they can spread from another person. Let us say if person A को कोई microbial disease है, so there are very high chances, it differs disease to disease, but हो सकता है there are very high chances that this disease will also be spread to person B. A very common example is, आपको अगर याद होगा, a few years back we had COVID-19 pandemic. So what was COVID-19? It was also a microbial disease. It was caused by coronavirus and it was infectious. If one person is infected, अगर एक person को ये disease हो गई है, so it will spread to other people as well. Correct, you gave a very good example, Bhavya. Eye flu, it was also infectious. Okay, so many of the microbial disease, any disease that spreads from one person to another, कोई भी ऐसी disease जो एक person से दूसरे person में spread होती है, उसको हम क्या कहते हैं? We call it infectious. And a disease that is not spreading from one person to another, that will be non-infectious, like blood pressure. It is not infectious. If one person is having blood pressure, हम उस person के contact में भी आएंगे, हम उनके साथ food भी share करेंगे, nothing will happen. Like, but on the other hand, if a person is having smallpox, अगर हम उस person के direct contact में आते हैं, if person is having common cold, घर में हम कहते हैं if one person is suffering from common cold, so everyone starts to have the symptoms of the cold. Why this happens? Because they are infectious. Why this happens? Because they are infectious, like cough, cold. Correct, right? Okay, they are all the correct examples. So we have to keep this thing in mind. So what is the meaning of infectious disease? Okay, disease which spread from one person to another. Disease which spread from one person to another. What do we call all such diseases? All such diseases are referred to as infectious diseases. ऐसे सभी disease को हम क्या कहेंगे? We call them infectious disease. Okay, and many examples we just discussed. Now everyone, in tomorrow's class, okay, what we will discuss, हम various type of microbial diseases देखेंगे. We will learn the examples of bacterial diseases, we will learn the examples of viral diseases, some fungal diseases and some of the protozoan diseases. Last year, अभी जो RMS का exam हुआ था आपका last December में, they had asked you the questions on fungal diseases. Fungal disease में उससे questions आए थे, okay. Yes, Bhavya, we call them communicable also. Communicable and non-communicable, that is also the term. Correct. Influenza is also one of the infectious diseases. So, in more detail, अब हम कल discuss करेंगे about microbial diseases, and after that, that will be a very small part, because maximum we have to do is like do the examples, and after that we will do. Now am I audible? Now it is there, now clear. Okay, so everyone, once again we will meet in tomorrow's class. इस chapter को हम complete करेंगे and then we will also do the questions. Okay, okay, so good night everyone and study well. आपको अच्छे से ध्यान रखना है that आपका target है, you must score 300 out of 300. You should target for 300, 250, 270, 260, ऐसा odd target बिल्कुल नहीं रखना है. Maximum marks is 300. You keep your target for 300. GK में it has to be 50 out of 50. English में you have to do 50 out of 50. In reasoning and in intelligence, that's all. Okay. Highest score इस बार का 292 था. So if a student can score of your age group, a student can score 292. So it's just 8 marks more. You can score 300. Okay. So do the revisions, solve more and more questions, and बिल्कुल यही एक goal रखना है. Last few months are left that we must score 300 out of 300 in the Sainik School. तो जो भी school चाहिए होगा, state का, other state का, वो school allot हो जाएगा. Okay. Okay. So everyone, we will sum up the class now. And good night everyone. We will meet again tomorrow at 8:15.